latch onto it. I was in a group of 8 or 10, and they started, we were discussing ideas, and one idea came up that I really was intrigued by. Nobody else was, so I decided to do it by myself. What key do I hit? Space? Good. So here the problem definition. Many library resources are difficult for the user to discover, particularly just when they need it. What? Backspace. Skip one, huh? Yeah. Okay. It hits all but one of the strategic plans. An interactive query system. The goal is to provide a single query point that will lead the user to an enormous variety of available resources. A screen allows the user to enter a word or a phrase or a question and then interact with a computer system that progressively refines the query and presents possible actions. Okay. Now, help. Help. I have 2 files of slides.
Doesn't count your time, don't worry. It's paused.
Okay, so here now, I made up several conversations to imitate the system. So in this conversation, the user enters a mysterious string of letters, but the system is quite clever and it says, is this the same as a pain in your middle, stomachache? And the user says, I think so. Can I scroll down here? Oh, I see, okay. Okay, then the system says, which of the following would you be interested in? And gives quite a large number, as you can see, of possible areas that the person might want to explore, maybe more than the person had even known existed. And gives at the bottom is something else in case we didn't hit on it. So the user says story, or B, and the system says, here are some stories about stomach aches. And this just came out of the regular search that we have now. There's a children's book called Moving Gives Me a Stomachache, and there's an adult book called The Deadliest Book of Estonian Literature. So that's the end of that sequence, but I want to note that the current system, if you do a search in the books, for a book about stomachache, will give you 8 books, 8 titles, but this very confusing to a user list of categories that I'm not sure anybody could use intelligently. And of the 8 books, 3 of them are that one children's book. So, there might want to be a front end that would unduplicate some of those things. No, I see how this is going to go. Okay. Conversation 2. The user says, what is an ebook? Now, on the system, TPL system now, if you enter what is the ebook, you'll get a list of about 1,200 ebooks, which doesn't really answer the question. But my system says an ebook is an electronic version of a printed book that can be read on a computer or handheld device designed specifically for this purpose. The device is also called an ebook, something which I was rather startled to realize. And then it goes on to say, would you like to know, and then gives a number of choices which you can read. How you can read an ebook, how you can find and borrow an ebook, how to get an ebook device, how to create your own ebook, the history of ebooks, etc. And the user types in G, something else. Whoops. Wrong button. So the system said, what would you like to know? The user types in, are there ebooks for children? The system says, yes. You have access here to over 1,000 ebooks for children. Would you like to know? And then repeats those same choices. And this time the user says C, which is how to download. The system says, what kind of device do you have, make and model? The user says, not sure. System says, please take your device, back up, to the librarian and ask them for help. They can tell you the make and model, and they can arrange for someone to explain how to use it. Or you can check out the Army Friend of Tom. Okay, there's a one-page summary. The targets here are in 3 library resources, which the current system does a pretty good job with. Library services doesn't touch it, and community resources, which maybe would have to be a stage 3. Barriers to public access to targets. The current search system is rigid, requires the user to understand the system rather than vice versa. Many desirable targets are not included in the current search system. And there might be an indirect relation of query to target, like stomachache to list of local health centers. Too many possibilities, difficult for the average user to research and to choose. And I suggest you might want to use a word net, like a semantic network, in order to make the index smaller and more useful. You could do something like ELIZA that has ways of interacting with the user that draw them out and suggest more possibilities. Need a preprocessor to correct non-standard spelling and grammar, and they need a post-processor to eliminate redundancies. And
Good.